Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Path to Pharmacy. My name is Imani Watson, and I am the Assistant Director of Social Media here at the UIC College of Pharmacy. I have assembled the social media student ambassadors to answer your pressing questions about P1 year. We also have Cindy Schaefer and Dan DeCesar on the line. They are our Office of Student Affairs staff to answer any questions that maybe our students might not be able to answer. So let's get into your questions. The first question that we're going to start with, and each of them are going to get a chance to answer, is how did you all each individually decide on the UIC College of Pharmacy for pharmacy school? And any of you can go first.
I'll go for,
Okay,
you can go, you can go.
I'll start us off. Hello, everyone. My name is Anita. How I decided on pharmacy school, I was actually stuck between two schools. It was between UIC and University of Colorado. I decided on UIC because I wanted to stay close to my family. UIC is also a top 10 school in the nation, so that was a big plus for me. As well as the location for UIC, it is located in Illinois Medical District, so there's a lot of opportunities to get a career around the area and opportunities to get that experience as well. So that's how I decided. Michael, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Anita. Okay, hi everybody. My name is Michael Forst. I'm a current P3 at UIC. I chose the school similar reasons like Anita did. My family is around the area, so that was a really big point to keep in mind. And even a lot of my friends from undergrad moved to the city. My twin brother is moving to the city. And there was a lot of familiarity with just knowing that the people who were going to be around me, I could see them in a short distance. I only applied to UIC, so I did the early admit. So I just kind of threw my chips there and it worked out. So that's how I chose UIC. Just again, just a lot of familiarity with the place and comfort knowing that people I knew were around me. I'm going to throw it to Brooke.
Everyone, thank you, Michael. I'm Brooke. I'm also a P3, but I'm actually on the Rockford campus. That actually plays a big part in why I chose UIC for College of Pharmacy. I'm not a very big city kind of person, and so being able to get the prestige and the same education as the UIC College of Pharmacy, but doing in a like smaller city type feel with Rockford was really, really appealing to me. And then just to echo probably most people here, it was close to my family. I didn't want to be too close, but I also wanted to be close enough that I could go see them when I want to. So it was kind of the perfect distance. Yeah. Oh, I guess I can throw it to someone as well. I'll throw it to Sylvia. She seems like she wants to go.
Oh, gee. Thanks, Brooke. So I'm Sylvia, as Brooke said. I chose UIC, or I guess I'm a P2. I chose UIC because I wanted to get out of Georgia, which is my home state. And I have a lot of family here in Illinois, and they always said good things about the UIC College of Pharmacy. And then Rockford campus specifically because they offered me in-state tuition, which is one of the perks of Rockford. So I guess last and not least, we got Craig.
Hi, I'm Craig. I'm a P4 for another week and a half. The one thing I wanted to mention, aside from location, great, top 10 school, great. I looked at UIC and one other school that I had an interview at, and the other school, I got the feeling that they were a lot more interested in my student loan money than they were in me. When I went to UIC for a tour and for the interview process, I really felt like they wanted me there. And that was a really big deciding factor for me.
Thank you all so much for sharing all of that. Thank you for adding that too at the end, Craig, and congratulations on graduating. You're almost there. That's really awesome. Thank you guys for sharing those details. The next question that we received is, what are some things that you all did to prepare for your P1 year? So once you decided, you know what, I'm going to pharmacy school, I'm going to UIC College of Pharmacy for pharmacy school, what did you do? What was incorporated in that process of getting ready for a P1 year? I'm gonna pick Brooke to start.
For me, I had been actually out of school for about 2 years. I took a gap after my undergrad to make sure that I really wanted to actually go into pharmacy because I had switched majors a lot in undergrad. So I worked in a pharmacy, in a retail pharmacy for 2 years. So that kind of helped me prepare for P1 year. It was getting me familiar with a lot of, pharmacy things and terms and drugs and whatnot. But I had to kind of get back in the mindset of being in school and being in class because I had been out of school for so long. So I kind of had to hit the books a little bit. I know a lot of the classes when you start back up are classes like med chem, and like you don't remember chemistry unless you're doing it. So I had to go back and review a lot of those subjects to prepare myself for the intro courses.
You guys can pass it to whoever you want.
Oh, okay. I'll go with Craig. We'll go back to Craig.
Thanks, Brooke. So I also came this is a second career for me. So I guess my preparation might be a little different from everybody else's. I was working as a pharmacy tech for a couple of years before deciding on pharmacy. So that's something I would recommend if possible, even if it's just for that summer right between whatever school you're coming from in pharmacy school. Any experience you can get in that would be great. And then just picking up a book, I picked up, I think it was called like Memorizing Pharmacology, the laid back approach or something like that, and just kind of tried to read through it. But even an old Naplex book or something like that, if you have the time and don't want to spend too much time trying to catch up when you get there. And then I'll pass it to Michael.
Thank you, Craig. So we were 3 for 3 for taking a gap year. I also took a gap year and worked at a pharmacy for the entire year, just to see if I really wanted to do it. And I just wanted to dip my toes in pharmacy to begin with because I didn't have any experience in it in undergrad. So that was basically my pre-studying, just my experience of working there. And then we get a peer advisor. So you're paired up with about 5 to maybe 7 or 8 of your peers in your class with an upperclassman as you transition from the summer into your P1 fall year. And I had talked to my PA a lot about what to expect. And just one thing that stuck out to me, I think it's worth mentioning, is that you don't have to buy any textbooks because all of our lectures are on just presented in a PowerPoint format. And that was, I say that because that was one thing that my PA really honed in on. So just like to get that mindset ready, if you don't have to carry around a textbook because you have PowerPoints ready. So I just kept that in mind and then just worked for my year and kind of learned how to speak pharmacy and just be involved in it. Okay, I'm going to pass it to Sylvia.
I guess I'm breaking the chain of having a gap year. So I was actually enrolled in a master's program before starting school. So I didn't really have anything to like catch up on or like remind myself how to study because I was already in that process. So my biggest thing before coming to pharm school was figuring out where to live and trying to figure out how to live on my own again after 3 years of being back home after undergrad. So yeah, that was essentially it. And I guess Anita.
I actually went straight from undergrad to pharmacy school. So unlike everyone else, I honestly just took the summer off. I did work. I was having problems with my license. I didn't work in a pharmacy. I had a different job. So I just took the summer off, relaxed. I knew pharmacy school was going to be hard. So I just gave myself like a mental break. But if I had the option, I probably would have worked in a pharmacy in that summer. I think it does help with like the top 200 drugs that you'll be learning P1 year. But if you want to take the summer off, it's totally cool too.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for sharing. It sounds like either working as a pharm tech or working in a pharmacy in some capacity prior to pharmacy school would be beneficial. Sounds like a trend. Thank you so much for those answers. Let's see, what is our next question? Okay, so what are some good study habits that you have cultivated or developed being a pharmacy school student? Do you have any tips, tricks that you want to share with everyone? I'm going to start with Craig.
Let's see. I think probably the best study habit that I would say is don't get behind. It's real easy, especially at the beginning of the semester, to see first test isn't for 3 weeks. I can kind of take it easy these first 3 weeks and not worry about studying so much until the night before. But then when that 3 weeks hits, you're cramming for your first test, and then your next test is in the next week, and then the next test is right after that. So really, you gotta get in the mindset to hit the ground running, and you don't want to overload yourself, but you also want to plan ahead. So I guess with that, I'll throw it to Sylvia.
I'm laughing because I do exactly what Craig says not to do, and I give myself, I'm like, oh, we have 3 weeks, let's chill for a little bit. Do not do that, like Craig said. I think one of the things that really helps me is when I go to lecture, I just sit and lecture and listen. I don't try to take notes or anything. I just sit there, and then since all of our lectures are recorded, I go back and I listen to the lectures again, and that's when I actually take notes and then I rewrite them. And I always handwrite my notes when I redo them because I feel like that helps me memorize them, or not memorize, but learn them better than sitting there and typing on my computer, because there's scientific studies and stuff that say that handwriting and doing stuff like that helps you memorize more than just typing on your computer. And so that's what I do. I also color coordinate everything. So those are my study tips. If you want help color coordinating or good pens, I got you guys. We'll pass it back to Mike.
Thank you, Sylvia. So I utilize the rewatching of the recorded lectures to its fullest capacity. You can watch it on 2 times the speed, so it'll go a little faster. And if you want to just rewind something, you can always do that too, just to hear it again. So I initially printed out all of the PowerPoints and then was taking notes on it, pen and paper as well. But I did not like the stack of papers that I had anymore. So I had a friend who gave me an iPad. So yeah, it was super nice. But so I utilized that with an app called OneNote, which you can download all the PowerPoints into the app as a PDF, and then you can just write down your notes as if it's the actual PDF just in your hand. And some other people use Notability. I've never used it, but I think the only difference is you have to pay for Notability, and OneNote, you have a subscription through it, and you can just use your UIC account as well. But that is what I do. And then sometimes make a Google Doc to outline things, or like Sylvia, I also just rewrite things, sometimes 3 to 5 slides at a time. If it's all in the same topic, then I see if I can reiterate it back to myself. And then I just go step by step through the PowerPoint, and then I move on to the next one. Okay, I'm going to throw it to Anita.
Thank you. I definitely agree with Michael. Having an iPad and an iPencil helps so much because all your notes are right there in a folder. So I usually just download all the PowerPoints, take notes on that, and then sometimes I'll go back if I have time and retake notes on my notes. And then what I found that actually helped me a lot this semester has been going through everything on my own first, and then doing a Zoom call with a few of my friends and just going chapter by chapter or PowerPoint by PowerPoint and talking about it out loud. I think that helps me. You kind of just have to figure out what works for you and then adjust based on that. And then I'll pass it to Brooke.
I'm going to kind of buck the trend of handwriting notes and rewatching lectures, because I am not one who can sit through a lecture a second time. I was the one that was there at 8:15 for every lecture. Every day I didn't miss a class. I needed to be there and absorb it. And then what I would do is I really utilize Google Docs, and I would just write out all the objectives, and that worked for my brain. It kind of ended up being kind of like a word vomit at times, but I would usually be able to pick up on the important stuff. So I'm not your usual student when it comes to study habits, but it works. I would say I have friends who really like the iPad and the handwriting of notes down. It makes it a lot easier to carry it around because, as Michael said, we get a lot of PowerPoints. So the stack will get really large really fast. So having it kind of electronically filed for you is really nice. So, I mean, we're not advertising for our iPads here, but they're definitely a good they're definitely a good purchase for pharmacy school. So, but otherwise, group study, group studying is very big, throwing ideas around off of your friends, and you might not quite understand a topic, but they will, and so you can really help each other kind of zero in on the things that you're missing. So yeah,
that's a good tip. Group work definitely helps. No free promo, Apple. So our next question is, how long is your typical P1 day, and what does that day consist of? Like any given typical day for a P1, what does that look like? Do you have class and then a lecture and then a meeting with your friends? What did that look like for you as a P1? And I'm gonna start with Anita.
So P1 year, I think all classes start at 8:30 in the morning. So sometimes they'll go all the way down until I think 3:30 or 4:30 when you have recitation. Or sometimes they'll go like 8:30 to 12:20. From 12:30 to 1:30, every day is the lunch period for everyone on campus. So that's when like we got to see our friends when we were on campus. We got to like talk, hang out. But it really depends on how you set up your schedule. Usually you'll have classes in the morning and then recitations in the afternoon with that 1 hour lunch period. I'll pass it on to Sylvia.
Yeah, so Anita basically said what our schedule is. There's not much else. The only thing I can think of adding are we have our org meetings during the lunch hours 2 days a week. So sometimes you don't actually get your lunch hour because you're going to be at an org event. But a good thing about org events is when they are in person, you do get free food with them. So you do get a lunch with them. And then otherwise you just may have a meeting or something, or you're studying and cramming for your exam that's about to happen. But yeah, that's really it.
I'm going to pause you. Does anyone have anything different to add to this question? Because it seems like it's a pretty structured day. Did any of the rest of you find your P1 year or your P1 schedule to be a little bit different than what has been presented?
No.
I just want to say that I think for the most of our year is kind of similar to what Nate and Sylvia talked about. The 12:30 to 1:20 lunch times is big for org meetings. And then there are also some other meetings that this isn't necessarily a typical P1 day, but some things fall into the afternoon as well. So say our last class is a recitation that ends at 3:30. You might have a meeting at 4:30, maybe even later on in the night, 5:30 or 6:30. But again, that's also just with some org involvement or something outside of school. Either way, you might have some stuff that trickle into the early afternoon, night, and then I'm sure a lot of us just end the day with studying, just study at night.
Makes sense. Okay. Well, for this.
Hey, I just have one quick thing.
Yeah, what's up?
Sorry, could you guys talk a little bit about IPPE week in the first year as well? I know it's not a typical day, but it is something that's kind of unique to UIC in the College of Pharmacy. So could you just talk a little bit about P1 IPPE week?
Who wants to take a whack at that one?
That was actually what I was going to talk about for my most memorable P1 experience. So maybe I could throw something in for that.
Yeah.
So IPPE week was probably my most memorable P1 experience. You take a week off from classes and you're getting your first experience out at a site. I was at a rehab hospital, which was something completely new for me. I had worked in a pharmacy, but it was a mail order pharmacy, more the retail end of things. Hospital pharmacy was something I was completely unfamiliar with. And getting to get out there, meet practicing pharmacists and upperclassmen who were taking me under their wing, and also being able to interact with patients and start making differences for them in a way that I had never done before was something that really stuck with me even to this day. I think about some of the lessons I learned from that preceptor that I had.
Other thoughts and experiences on IPPE week? It sounds awesome.
Yeah, I would say IPPE week for me was one of my favorite weeks of P1 year. It was definitely a good break because it's right in near the 75% done of the semester. So it's a good week to just chill and just breathe. You don't have any quizzes, you don't have any exams, and it's probably one of the few weeks of your first semester that you don't have an exam, because our exams are there's one a week essentially for P1 year. So it was really nice to have that week off where we could just chill and breathe. And for us, it just happened to be the week of Halloween as well. So it was just a bonus on top of it because we could actually celebrate Halloween. But yeah, it was really great. It was a great experience.
Going off of what Sylvia said, we don't have any quizzes or tests that week because we're essentially working full time in our rotation. So you could do upwards of 8 hours per day at your site, and you do that Monday through Friday, and you get to experience basically a week in the life of a pharmacist practicing at your respective site. So that is, it was actually, yeah, it was really cool. I agree with everybody else. I didn't know that we were going to do that going into the fall year. So it was cool to, one, get a release and a break from the semester, and then two, to be working with the respective, my preceptor at the time. I was in the infectious disease consulting service at UI Health. And so there was also two P4s with me. So I got to, build that network a little bit, meet some of the P4s and get their unique experiences of their API rotation. So I guess in a sense, it is a mini week's worth of an API rotation because you're doing it full time. So it was really cool to see. And then you got a little bit of like topic discussions and journal clubs, which you'll learn about when you get here as well. But it's, and maybe even case presentations, but it's all about immersing yourself in it as best you can, as early as you can to get the most out of it.
Before we get our next answer, can someone define for us the difference between an IPPE and an APPE? Because I feel like both, we're saying these terms, I want to make sure we all know what they mean. Anyone can define those for us.
Sorry, I think I was throwing around API without even realizing I did it.
That's okay.
So IPPEs are your introductory pharmacy practice experiences, which you have your P1 and P2 and P3 year. So P1 through P3 year, you have them. For your P1 fall, you have it just this IPPE week, and then P1 fall and P1 spring, and then next year into P2, you have it once a week, if I remember correctly. And then same thing with P3, fall and spring, you have your IPPE, we call it IPPE site once a week. And then in those P1 through P3 years, you're having all of your didactic courses. So you're taking all of your courses, you're still a full-time student while also getting 1 day to practice in a site. And then your P4 year, it's APPEs or advanced pharmacy practice experiences, which you are doing this, you're essentially a full-time, you like work full-time, you learn full-time, you don't take any didactic courses, but you are at your sites Monday through Friday, 5 days every week. And actually that brings me up to another typical thing, a typical life of a student. A lot of us work. So a lot of us will work on either Saturday or Sunday, or maybe even pick up an afternoon shift during the week. So keep that in mind, that if you were looking for a job, there are so many hospitals in the Chicagoland area, and Rockford, there's at least 2 hospitals that I know of. And then you can also work at, Walgreens, CVS, or even work for a pharmaceutical company if you can make that work. There's a lot of different areas that you can go into, and all of the faculty here are well connected if you want to do something like that too.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for giving us that insight. Did anyone have anything else to share about IPPE week? And if not, I will. Okay, cool. I will ask the next question, which is, how soon will we know our Flames family? So someone, and I'm going to pick, who am I going to pick this time? I'm going to pick Sylvia. Please tell us what the Flames family, what that is, and when would a P1 or like an incoming P1 know who that group is for them?
Okay, yeah. So our Flames family is, we have a faculty, well, I guess not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a faculty advisor, but somebody who is a pharmacist that wants to mentor students in pharmacy school. Mine doesn't happen to be a faculty professor. She's just a pharmacist at the local hospital. And then there is typically 1 P4 student, 1 P3, 1 P2, and 1 P1 student in these families. And we just meet up like at least once a semester to just update each other, get advice, offer advice, anything like that. And then you can meet up outside of that as well. They're just a good connection to have. And when do we get our Flames families? We get them during orientation. At least that's when I remember getting them, was our first day of orientation. They put all of the Flames families that are possible in the little mortar, and then you go and draw it out. So it's not pre-assigned technically. You choose who it is, but you still don't know who it is, I guess. And then we just email and meet up.
Awesome. Has that process changed, Cindy or Dan, or does it still happen in that same way?
Yeah, so at least on the Rockford campus, that process is still the same. So the students are randomly matched with their Flames family during orientation.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Yes, and the same is for Chicago.
Thank you guys so much for confirming that. Did anyone have any stories about their Flames family, I can't even say the word, Flames family experience that they wanted to share to give additional context to that answer or question? If not, we can go to it.
I'll share something that I kind of thought was cool. It'll be quick. When I was a P1, my P4 at the time was finishing her year, and she went on to apply for residencies, and she matching being that she obtained a residency at Rush University Medical Center, and that's where I work. So at the beginning of the year, when I thought that I wasn't going to see her anymore, now I got to see her for a whole extra year. So your relationships that you have in Flames can potentially, or probably will carry over past school and outside of school. So really, they can be really impactful and meaningful. And again, it's just kind of like what you put into it is what you get out of it. So yeah, I still keep in touch with my Flames family outside of just our regular meetings as well.
Awesome. That sounds like a great networking opportunity and a great way to stay connected with people that you have something very in common with. So that's awesome. Did anyone have anything else to add about the Flames question? Okay.
Oh, I was just going to add that with my Flames family, since we had a shortened hospital experience for us, so instead of the 6 weeks IPI rotation, we only had 3 weeks. And luckily for me, the hospital rotation I had, the hospital I was at, was where my Flames family advisor also worked. So I was able to talk to my preceptor and to work my way up. So I wasn't just in the hospital pharmacy doing stuff. I was able to go in and experience the critical care unit at the hospital I was also working at, because I had that connection with my Flames family advisor already up there. And she was like, oh yeah, I'll definitely take her for the morning shift. So it's good to have so if you do work at the hospital with them, then you can always just go and experience part of it with them. You're not stuck in a certain area of the pharmacy.
That's perfect. That sounds like an awesome experience. Thank you for sharing that. Our next question is so the question as it was written was, what are some clubs or organizations that a student could participate in? And I know we have a lot. How I'm going to phrase this question is, what are some student organizations that each of you are a part of? And maybe you can give a little brief sentence or two about why you selected that club. I'm going to start with Michael.
Thank you, Amani. So I'm gonna start with, there are a ton of organizations that you can get involved in. Whatever you're interested in, there is an organization that can help you get to where you want to go with respect to any of your interests. So I am currently president of the Chicago ICHP chapter, which is the Illinois Council of Health System Pharmacists. It's mainly clinical focused. So a lot of the students who are part of it want to work at a hospital or practice in some clinical setting. And a cool thing about the organization is that it's the state chapter of ASHP, which hosts mid-year, which is a very big meeting. You're P4 year, and you're going to learn about it the second you get on campus. It's the biggest meeting for trying to acquire a residency, or sometimes you or a lot of times in a fellowship as well. So it's a big national meeting that pharmacists, pharmacy students go to, really big meeting. So That's a really cool thing. I met a lot of cool pharmacists, even in the Illinois chapter meetings that happen throughout Illinois. A lot of practicing pharmacists and students go there because a lot of practicing pharmacists also still stay involved in the organization. And then I'm just going to say two more. I'm the national delegate for PLS, which is the Pharmacy Leadership Society, which it's like one of the orgs that you can't join as a P1, but you can look forward to joining it as a P2. And then if you're into like kind of student government or just representing your student body, I am the Chicago campus co-president for the P3 class. So it's cool because you get to work with the Pharmacy Student Council and then sometimes the Health Profession Student Council, which is the organization that covers the West Campus. So any health school around here, dental medicine, etc., you get to work with them as well. I'm going to pass it to Brooke.
Got a lot of orgs that we could talk about here. Echoing Michael, I'm also part of the Pharmacy Student Council. So I'm the Rockford P3 class president. So do a lot with that. I'm the, well, I guess now former, I guess we could probably say that now with our orgs, former president, the Rockford president of IDSPHA, which is a mouthful, but it's the Infectious Disease Student Pharmacists Association. So as the name implies, it's dealing with infectious diseases. And so if that's an interest of yours, it's definitely a cool org to get involved in. I'm also the former vice president of ACCP, which is the American College of Clinical Pharmacists, I believe. We're testing my knowledge of acronyms today. So kind of like ICHP, it's very like hospital kind of clinical focused. So, but it's more of like a national organization. So people who are wanting to go into kind of a clinical pharmacy role will typically be involved in that org. And then I used to be involved, I'm going to steal this from Sylvia, in APHA on the Rockford side, APHA ASP. So it's the American Pharmacists Association, Academy of Student Pharmacists. So I was involved with their Operation Diabetes for 2 years. So they have a lot of different areas that I'm sure Sylvia will talk about as far as patient care centered. And you can get into a lot of different volunteer opportunities with that org, especially. It's APHA is the largest pharmacy organization, so it's always a great one to get involved in. And then I'll pass it to Sylvia since I'm name dropping her.
Thanks, Brooke. I think Brooke talked about APHA ASP enough, but if you guys want to know more, we can always talk about it. Orgs. So I guess one big thing that we should probably mention is we keep talking about Pharmacy Student Council. Pharmacy Student Council is the overarching like org, I guess, that all of the other student orgs and class councils belong to. I will be becoming the president of that. I don't want to claim presidency yet because the school year is not over and my predecessors are still there. And then other orgs on campus that I particularly am involved in are the Pediatric Pharmacy Association. That's just what it sounds like, pediatrics, where we work with kids. I'm also in a fraternity. I'm in Kappa Psi Pharmaceutical Fraternity. And so Rockford only has that fraternity. I know Chicago has a different fraternity as well, which I cannot remember the name of right now. Fraternities, it's typically like they're all professional fraternities and you can rush during the first semester, your P1 year or your P2 year or P3 year. So those are there. And then I'm also in, I can't remember. So yeah, but there's a lot of different orgs that are on campus. I know Craig's in a few, or used to be in a few. I don't know if he's still active in a lot of them, but he was also in APA with me last year. Craig, you want to go?
Sure. So yes, I was in APHA. I'm still technically a member, but I was a member of the e-board, the VP of Communications for my P2 and P3 year. I'm also a member of the Student Engagement Subcommittee for the Society of Pain and Palliative Care Pharmacists. And I wanted to make sure I mentioned this one because this one isn't through UIC. They don't have any representation on the campus. I did hear about it from one of the teachers there, but I'd been a hospice volunteer for many years, so that patient population has been kind of near and dear to my heart. And when I heard this was an organization, I sought it out and joined it and found my way onto this subcommittee. So just because there's not an organization you're interested in isn't at UIC doesn't mean you can't join it. So if there's something that you have an interest in and you're not seeing it anywhere, take a look and see what else is out there, even if it isn't one of the organizations that's available on campus. The downside is you don't get the paid lunch during the meetings, but it's a small sacrifice to make. And I did want to throw in there that APHA was a great experience for me. My first year at UIC, I was very focused on studying and just trying to do my best in my classes and didn't do anything beyond that. And at the end of the year, I felt like I missed out on a lot. So I made it my mission second year to get involved in something and found my way to APHA and thought that applying to be VP of Communications would be a great way to get myself out there. And it was. I made some great friendships, and I got to know Brooke and Sylvia through APHA. So I'm forever grateful. And with that, I'll pass it to Anita.
I don't know how I'm going to follow all of you guys, but I'm part of Phi Delta Chi, which is the other professional fraternity over at the Chicago campus, along with Michael. I know it can be overwhelming, all these different organizations. You don't have to be involved in a lot. You can be involved as much as you want. So that was something that I was really nervous about going into my P1 year. I was like, oh my God, everyone's doing so much. Like, should I be doing that? Just go at your own pace, do what you like. Focus on school or whatever you want to do, but don't compare yourself to other people is what I would suggest.
If I'm able to add one more thing, actually, because that hits upon a good point. Like we are all doing a lot of different things, but it's not necessarily quantity over quality. It's what you do in those orgs and what you can speak to, like for your time in those orgs, because you can put a bunch of things on your CV, and when you go to, apply for a job, they're gonna be like, well, what did you do in this position? And if you don't have anything that you can speak about, then like, what was the point of even being in that position and having that title? So like, just because we're on a bunch, I know on the Rockford campus especially, we have a smaller student body and we still have a decent amount of orgs, so we have to have people to fill those positions. So I think a lot of us end up taking on a lot. But like, you don't have to be involved in a bunch. If you find kind of like your thing that you're interested in and you go all in and you do a lot, it's just as good as being in, like 3 orgs. So.
Thank you so much for adding that. What's really cool, what it sounds like to me, what's really cool about all of this is, whatever your interest area is, as it relates to pharmacy, it sounds like the college pretty much has it covered. There's going to be some that might go outside of what we offer, but there's definitely a lot of options. So students can pick the ones that resonates the most with them. So that's really awesome. The next question is, which I don't know how many people will need to answer this one, but so P1 year, are there only exams on Fridays? Are there exams every Friday? Talk about the exam schedule for P1 year. I'm going to start with Anita.
So I'll go ahead and answer that. So P1 year, most of your exams will be on a Friday. You have an exam block, which is a Friday. You don't necessarily have one every week, but most weeks you do have one. So it's only like that for fall P1 year. So then in the spring of P1, you go to regular exam schedules, which you'll have like 1 a week, 2 a week. You'll have a little break and then have like 3 a week sometimes. It all depends. But on Fridays, it's only for P1 fall year, which is actually really nice, but you'll get to see if you like that better or just having them randomly throughout the week. But on Fridays, the block exams are only for P1 fall year. I don't know if anyone else has anything to add.
I'm going to add to that just because I know that we're trying to work on only having exam blocks for all of the semesters. So I know for the P3s next fall, our exam block is going to be Thursday afternoons. I don't know exactly when it will be for other students or like the other class years, but that is something that we're trying to work on with the professors of trying to only have 1 exam a week. And the good thing is our exam schedules are posted before the semester even starts. So you know when your exams are going to be like the first week of school. So you can always plan around it and stuff like that as well.
Very helpful to know. Did anyone else have anything to add about exams, P1 year, or the exam schedule?
I'll just say going off that, I think maybe Craig talked about it, but staying organized, I don't think any of us can emphasize that enough, because when you have an exam coming up every week or even multiple, it is easy to fall behind. I have definitely, I can speak to that. That's happened to me. So, and make sure you keep up with all of your classes, because at times it can feel like of quizzes, projects, tests, assignments. So you'll overcome it, you'll get through it. And again, just as long as you just maintain a sort of like self-responsibility with respect to all of your courses, you will do great.
Thank you. Thank you for that tip. Stay organized, stay ahead of it. The last question I have for, and everyone can answer this one. What was the most memorable experience of P1 year, or something that really stood out to you P1 year that you will never forget? Okay, I'll start with Craig. Since you are going to be graduating soon, what was your most memorable experience of P1 year, if you have any? Well, you told us one. I don't know if you have it.
Yeah, I've been trying to think of another one. It was so long ago. No, there was a whole bunch of new things. I think another thing that really stuck out about P1 was getting into the compounding lab for the first time. That was another thing that I hadn't really done anything quite like that before getting to UIC, and getting up in the room with Doug and seeing the mortar and pestle, and oh, we're actually going to start mixing stuff together, and we're going to do some geometric mixing of different powders and Kool-Aid mix, and get that hands-on practice. You know, even just the fact that it was a break from the classroom was always something that made it a highlight of the week. So that's something that I look back on fondly from P1 and P2 year. I don't think we did as much as P3. If we did, I also look back on that fondly.
You can feel free to pass it to whoever you want.
Right. I'll pass it to Brooke.
I mean, I think most of us could probably agree with Craig's original memorable moment of practice week. I also had a really great practice week. I was in the critical care unit at Swedes, but just to give a different type of aspect of P1 year, I'm pretty sure it's the first semester of P1 year where we have the big social mixer that is actually put on by Cindy. So thank you, Cindy. Our P1 year was at the Standard on State, if I'm remembering correctly. And it's basically a big mixer where everybody from like all the classes and like Rockford faculty, and sometimes even some of the Chicago faculty will come down, and we'll just have appetizers and mix with each other and, you know, get to know everybody on, you know, the top of Standard on State. It's a really great time. You get to make a lot of friends. You get to network with different like people in different classes. I know there were a lot of P3s when I was a P4, so now graduating, that I was able to network with, and actually got me really kind of involved in some of the orgs that I ended up being in. So it was a really great networking event. I was able to actually even like my close friends now, this like in my class in Rockford, that's where we kind of started, you know, talking and becoming friends. So it's a really nice, I guess probably a Rockford perk of some sort, but it was just a really great time. And I look back on that fondly, and they do it every year. So it's not necessarily specific to P1s, but I think it's most important for P1s because you come in not really knowing a lot of people, and it's a great opportunity to get to know some people.
Okay, I'm gonna pick.
I'm sorry, I always forget to pass. I'm sorry. You can pick somebody.
Okay. I'll pick, I'm gonna go with Michael. I'm gonna pick you.
Thank you. I have two that come to mind. The first one, it's illustrated, I think, an important point. So as Anita said, I'm also in Phi Delta Chi pharmacy fraternity, and at the tail end of our winter break, we all took a trip to stay in a cabin in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, I believe is where it was. So we just like spent the weekend skiing and snowboarding and being outside. And I say that because it's important to note that it's okay to have fun outside of school and dedicate some time to not having to think about like advancing your career or doing something, you know, related to pharmacy. We all just spent a weekend in Michigan, and it was with everybody in the fraternity basically. So it was cool. I got to meet a lot of the people who I hadn't necessarily developed a good relationship with at that point. I've only been in school for one semester at that point. So that was really nice. And then the second event, ICHP partnered with a local organization called Hope for the Day, which focuses on mental health and providing, or just kind of like speaking about mental health stigmas. And the partnership in the event was to honor the life of a previous student. So we just talked about just like maintaining beneficial mental health and just surrounding yourself with good, positive feelings and emotions. And that at that point, I remember walking away from that and just kind of feeling like a little humbled by what we talked about, and just thinking that, you know, some of the things that we do at this school are bigger than any one of us. A lot of this has impact that goes into the community, or, you know, just kind of something on a larger scale. And Hope for the Day is a pretty prominent organization, not even within just the city, but within the nation at this point. So it was really cool to be able to be a part of that. I am going to pass it to Anita. I don't think she's spoken yet.
Going off of what Michael said, I think it's extremely, extremely important to do things outside of school to like just keep your mental health, you know, stable. I'm big on like just, you know, going to the gym, cooking, doing something other than pharmacy. You know, pharmacy will still be there at the end of the day. So one of my favorite memories is the orientation P1 year. I actually, like 4 of my really close friends to this day are from my orientation group. And we had like a little, like Brooke said, like a little mixer at the end of orientation where we get to know everyone. I thought that was really cool. Orientation was kind of overwhelming. I'm not gonna lie, I went home and like cried that day because I was like, oh my God, everyone's doing so much. Like, I don't even work in the pharmacy. Like, what am I doing? But it's totally fine. It'll be fine. So I think it's important to, like, you know, like I said, again, like not compare yourself to other people, just like enjoy the moment. And then what Craig was saying, pharmaceutics lab is by far one of my favorite classes. Dr. Bartles on the Chicago campus is amazing. Like, he does so much for us. He's awesome. That's by far like one of my favorite classes at P1 year and still to this day. I'll pass it on to Sylvia.
Okay, yeah. So I think with how everybody said, just getting to know your classmates and like IPPY week and Studix, by far my favorite things of P1 year, like school-wise. But I think probably outside of those two, my most memorable event was after one of our exams in our class group meet. All of us were like, all right, we're going out, like we're hanging out as a group. And it was like the first time our class really bonded after like being together for X amount of weeks. I think it was like about like halfway through the semester when our class finally was like, hey guys, we can hang out outside of just school. Like, let's be actual friends. And all 33 of my classmates like all met up and went out together. And I think that was like the best part, because as like we are in school together, we are supposed to learn together, but the best part about school is the friendships you make, because we are going to be together in the future, working together as peers and colleagues, no matter whether we stay in Illinois or not. And as one thing you will never get tired of hearing is pharmacy is very, very small. You will know everybody everywhere. So it was just great to be able to build those connections with my classmates like immediately. And then the P2s and P3s also, I guess, and now the current P3s and P4s also joined us on some of our events too. So it was just great just getting to know all of like our classmates and peers outside of school.
That's super important. Thank you all so much for bringing that up. You know, developing a rapport and a relationship with your classmates who, like you said, will eventually go on to become your colleagues, super important. Definitely fosters like a work-life balance too, because you know, we're all here to get a job done. We want to learn pharmacy, but we also want to make sure that, you know, we decompress, have a good time at the end of the day. So thank you so much for sharing all of that and reflecting on your experiences from P1 year. That concludes the questions. So Thank you guys so much for tuning into this. Whoever ends up watching this, I hope you find it educational, beneficial. You will have an opportunity to ask any follow-up questions that will be addressed later on. And if you're not already following us on social media, please do so. We have Facebook. We have 2 Facebooks, one for Chicago, one for Rockford. We have a LinkedIn, we have Instagram, we have Twitter, we have it all. So please follow us, and I will drop the links to where you can follow us once I post this. Cindy and Dan, did you have anything that you wanted to add before we wrapped up?
No, I'm all set. I think the students did a great job. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't have anything either. Great job, you guys. It's actually been really good to hear you reflect. I think it helps Dan and I kind of remember why we're in student affairs. So you guys did great. And yeah, that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you to our student ambassadors. Thank you, Cindy and Dan. And we'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.